Aloha, everyone, and welcome to Chesapeake Movies and More. And this time, I want to be talking a little bit about one of the few new movies to come out this year, at least one of the few big ones, Wonder Woman 84, which was just released. Technically was released to theaters, but probably most people are seeing it on HBO Max, which is how I saw it. And I've been seeing a lot of like negative reviews pop up for this, and I really did want to do my review because I think it's these negative reviews are very much a shame because I loved this movie. I thought it was absolutely beautiful in a way that few superhero movies in particular are. Um, the movie, and I can see why people would be but people would find this movie is not what they expected, because it's not a lot like any other superhero movie that you've seen, except maybe like the old Christopher Reeve Superman movies. They're a little like them, but not exactly because we're dealing with Wonder Woman and not Superman. But it may have been a kind of a deliberate thing to kind of do it more in that style, because those did come out in the '80s, and this is set in the '80s, and so it's kind of like when they did the Bumblebee movie, the Transformers Bumblebee movie that was set in the '80s, and they kind of did it kind of like an E.T. style kind of '80s movie. That seems to be kind of what they're going here. They're making the style of filmmaking fit the setting of the actual film, which I don't want that to, I think that's sometimes a pretty good way to go. I don't want that every movie set in the '80s to be in the style of an '80s movie, but every now and then I think it's a breath of fresh air. I like to see that different styles of filmmaking don't necessarily have to die out; that they can be brought back. So I really did enjoy that aspect of it myself, and which means that it can be a little bit corny, a little more of a fantasy, less of a reality kind of thing to this world, a little bit. It feels, if you're familiar with comics, it feels a lot like the Bronze Age of comics, in which it has some of that Silver Age silliness, where just like nothing was too over the top, anything goes. That Silver Age kind of aspect of comics. That's in there. But the Bronze Age took that and they started to take it a little more seriously. They would allow all these weird, crazy things to happen, but they would delve into like how does this affect the characters? What's their emotional response to this a little bit more? And that's kind of what we feel, or what I felt from watching Wonder Woman 84. The movie, and just a warning here, I may in my review touch on some mild spoilers. I don't want to give away anything major, but there may be a few little things that I touch on. But the movie, the real beauty of the movie, is in its central theme, which, in very fitting for Wonder Woman, is about truth. And Wonder Woman, that's what the character is about. Wonder Woman stories are about truth. Superman is about hope. Batman is about justice. Wonder Woman is about truth. And that's really reflected in the story. And we see the kind of the main theme stated for us on a smaller scale in the beginning of the movie, which is a flashback to a contest, a competition on the island of Themyscira, with Wonder Woman as a child undergoing that contest, which is a nice inclusion because a competition is usually part of Wonder Woman's origin story. It wasn't for the movie version. The movie version omitted that. And it's not part of the origin here, but they did include it. It just as kind of an important detail that didn't really have to do with her becoming usually in the origin story, Wonder Woman or Diana has to compete in this competition with the other Amazons to win the right to be the Amazon's emissary into man's world. And so that wasn't part of the movie universe, but they do show us this competition, which was just a basic competition, just to see like who had the best skills among them. So it's like sort of a regular thing that they did. But it was nice to see that included here. And the competition ends with young Diana getting thrown from her horse and therefore missing a checkpoint in this race. It's sort of this decathlon kind of race where there's running, there's swimming, there's horseback riding, there's all sorts of there's javelin throwing, there's archery, there's like all sorts of things they have to as they're going from point A to point B to win this race. And she gets thrown from her horse and misses this checkpoint, which basically just eliminates her from competition at that point. But rather than accept that, she takes the shortcut to get herself back on her horse ahead of the other Amazons that are racing, and winds up in the lead as they're coming to the finish line. But before she can cross the finish line, her trainer, her teacher, grabs her, pulls her out, and disqualifies her basically because she knows she cheated. And when Diana complains that she was about to win, she's taught the basic moral lesson of this movie, and which is that win would not have been truth; it would have been a lie. It's because you cheated, and there is no honor in winning and then living that lie. The honor comes in accepting the truth and dealing with it and doing better the next time. And so that is pretty much setting up what the rest of the movie is going to be about. And the rest of the movie is about this Dreamstone, is what it's called. It's an artifact that magic artifact that surfaces, which it has the ability to grant wishes to people. And there's a villain, Maxwell Lord, who's kind of treated differently here than he was in the comics. But I like what they did with the character for this movie. But in this movie, he's a con man who gains the power of the Dreamstone. And he's basically, his whole life has been about trying to convince people that they can have whatever they want, and all they have to do is just wish for it. That's kind of been the con he's been trying to sell his whole life, and now he gains this magic ability to kind of make it true. Except it's still a lie, because the Dreamstone, unbeknownst to some people who use it, it's like the monkey's paw, and they even mention the monkey's paw story in the movie. It extracts a horrible price from you in return for granting your wish. And so he gains this power, and Diana unknowingly ends up making a wish on the Dreamstone without realizing what it is, and ends up bringing Steve Trevor back to life, which is why you see him in the trailers. But it's exacting a horrible price in that she's beginning to lose her powers, and as a crisis begins to build, as more and more people are being granted wishes and horrible prices are exacted as because of this. So it's becoming a global catastrophe as it builds and builds and builds. And so she more and more is going to need her powers to succeed and save the world. So she is forced to relearn the hard lesson that she learned early on, that you can't live this lie, even though the lie is what you want, it's what you want to believe, but you can't live that way. There is more honor and there's more beauty in the truth and in recognizing that. And I really like this movie. I really like the way it treats that message, that moral, because it's very easy to say that truth is good. That's like hardly anyone would disagree with you. Truth is good. Truth is better than lies. But this movie presents in the way, well, what if the lie was the thing that you wanted most in the world to be true? What if the lie was the thing that your heart held most dearly? Could you give it up? And The when you present it that way, I think there's a part of everyone's heart that's like just wants to hold on to that a little bit longer. That'll make you question, like, you know, maybe like if I could have the thing I want most in the world, but I knowing that it would be untrue, it would be a lie. Would I take it? Would I live with the truth? And it presents it in that way, and uh, it's it's that way that I think makes it a very beautiful movie. I just it is ultimately the story it's telling is very beautiful, and the movie is very beautiful because of it. It's not a very action packed movie. There are action sequences in it, um, and they are good action sequences, but they're not like constantly throughout. So it's not really an action movie. Most like superhero movies would be like action movies or action comedies. This one not so much. It really feels a little bit more like a detective story, because like in most superhero movies, you have if even if there's not an actively fighting and action going on between the hero and the villain, there's still this tension that the hero and the villain are on this path that's this collision course where the the paths that they're on in their lives are going to cause them to smash right into each other, which is going to lead to the ultimate climactic battle between the two. But in Wonder Woman, it's you don't have that tension because it's not a direct path that Wonder Woman is taking to the battle with the villain. Um, the path she's on is more about the she has to find out. She knows the Dreamstone was created by one of the Greek gods, one of the Olympian gods, but she has to find out who which one it is in order to find out what the intention might have been behind it, and learn more about this Dreamstone. So it's really there's this sort of detective story as Wonder Woman and Steve Trevor go about trying to find out the origins and the truth. Once again, that theme of truth, the truth about this Dreamstone. Um, and a lot of things, like I said, the contest, the competition gets brought in. This also brings in Wonder Woman's invisible jet for the first time, which I think was a nice inclusion. Um, though it is a kind of again reminiscent of those old '80s Superman movies, in that like the power to turn her jet invisible is just given to her as a new power she's developed, one that she's not like fully mastered yet, so she can't like do it all the time, but she's able to do it to create an invisible jet. Again, like sometimes they would just like give Superman new powers like memory erasing kisses and things like that in Superman movies. So you've got a bit of that here too. Um, you have Diana learning how to fly, um, which is a power that she's had in most modern iterations of the character. Um, the and it was a very moving sequence in which I thought in which she does learn to fly. But you're bringing in a lot more of these elements that we associate with Wonder Woman, and I do appreciate that. This does lead to certain continuity glitches. And it doesn't break continuity entirely, but does create situations in which, when you put this in place with the other DCEU movies, it kind of makes it a little head scratching. It's like, okay, well, if she learned to fly in '84, why don't we really see her flying when she's fighting against Doomsday, for example, in one of the other movies? So yeah, you do have these little glitches. So it really looks to me like what DC is doing with their movies now is that they're making them take place in the same universe, but the continuity is not particularly tight. The continuity is very loose. If there is a little hiccup like this, they'll let that slide and deal with it later, which I'm kind of fine with. I'm kind of fine with. But if you're like a real, I mean, I'm just happy these things take place in the same universe and these characters can meet and cross over and so on, and like events that happen can inspire like a new story that builds on those events. But like the little head scratchers, I can kind of live with. So I'm fine with that. I'm a like an old school Star Trek fan, and like there, like if you couldn't live with those little head scratchers, you really couldn't be an old school Star Trek fan. Like, like in this episode, it's dangerous to go to warp. Well, within a solar system, but in another episode, they can go to warp from within the atmosphere of a planet, and it's no big deal. Or Klingon blood is this pinkish purple color, and it's a big deal in Star Trek Six: The Undiscovered Country. But any other time a Klingon bleeds, it's red like a human's. So those little head scratchers, those little continuity glitches, I can live with those. It might turn some people off, but I can live with those. And like the sort of, not so much lack of action, but like the lack of focus on action in this movie might turn some people off. So I can kind of see where some of the reviews might be negative, but I really think the positives really outweigh the negatives in this movie. I think I kind of enjoy it a little bit more than the first Wonder Woman movie, just because of how beautiful it is and how much it really understands the character of Wonder Woman. How much that Wonder Woman is so focused on truth, and how like Wonder Woman's villains. Wonder Woman does not have a really large rogues gallery of recurring villains. There's a few, but not a whole big one like Batman would have, because in Wonder Woman stories, often what she does to defeat the villain is to bring out the humanity of them and get them to change their ways. So that's kind of understanding that, and understanding that the Wonder Woman is not always going to be about punching the enemy until they're unconscious and throwing them in jail. That's going to that is important to me. It's important to have the superheroes that are distinct from each other. You don't want to just make the same character in the same movie all the time. You want to have the character, the personality of each hero be unique and distinct, so that it's important to tell their own unique stories. So I really like that about this movie. One of Wonder Woman's recurring villains, Cheetah, does pop up in this movie, and she's kind of the secondary villain, which is a little something I didn't really expect, and I kind of would have liked to have seen more from Cheetah. I'm not sure if it might be possible for them to bring her back. It kind of feels like they've closed the door on Cheetah by the end of the movie, but in comic books, weird things happen. So in comic book movies, weird things happen. Sometimes, like in comic books, there's been like multiple different Bizarros in Superman comics. So like the same character is created in multiple different ways within the same continuity. So weird stuff like that can happen. So I would like to see more of like an ongoing rivalry between Wonder Woman and Cheetah, and like it was set up pretty well in this movie, except that they kind of closed the door on it by the end. But they could kind of work around that. So like in a third movie, maybe we would see Cheetah return. It's not impossible. So I would. I would very much like to see a third Wonder Woman movie. I heard once we greenlit, and I heard people were complaining about it because of how bad they thought Wonder Woman 84 was. But honestly, this is not a bad movie. It's a wonderful movie. It's a beautiful. I think that's the word I've been using to describe it, and I think it is the best word. It is a beautiful movie. It's one of the best in the DCEU. I think Aquaman and Shazam are probably better. It's pretty close to the first Wonder Woman movie in terms of quality, although it's very different in its tone. But in terms of quality, I think it's pretty close. But I think personally, I enjoy this one a little bit more. But I just if you can see it, I did end up subscribing to HBO Max so I could see it. Plus, I did hear that they were going to be releasing all Warner Brothers movies, the theatrical releases, simultaneously on HBO Max, and under current circumstances, with the conditions in the outside world, I thought would be worth it to subscribe to HBO Max. So if you're subscribing to HBO Max, or if you are one of the people that can get out to the movie theaters to see it, I do highly recommend it. Go into an open mind. Maybe kind of ignore the trailers, because I think the trailers are a little bit more misleading, because I think they make you think it's a little bit more of a like action comedy kind of thing like you would expect from a modern superhero movie, which it really isn't. If you're going to like expect certain kind of superhero movie, think more along the lines of the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, because that's probably the closest comparison you'll have to it. And if you go into it with an open mind, I think you'll find something very touching and something very, very beautiful. I was, at a few moments, I was kind of tearing up at moments of great personal character growth and sacrifice and things like that. So I think it is very much worth the watch. Giving it a letter grade, solid A for me. Not an A plus, but I will give it a solid A for me. And I hope more people do like revisit this one, since there seems to be so much negativity about it. I hope people do revisit this one with new eyes, and hopefully like see the beauty in the message that the movie is getting across. But anyway, if you like what I do, you know the drill. That's a wrap.